Hello, and welcome to our channel, Heartwarming Stories. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us. If the story you're about to hear touches your heart, don't forget to hit the like button, share it to spread the love, and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the next stories we bring to you. Now let us begin today's story. A lonely man rescues an injured dog, unaware that he's about to uncover a buried past and embark on a journey of redemption for them both. At the farthest corner of a worn-out dog auction yard where rusted iron and dust covered everything, a dog marked with the number 57 lay silently. He didn't bark, didn't whimper, didn't beg. His fur was matted, and his eyes. Those eyes had long stopped believing that anyone would stop for him. People walked past, some scoffed, others shook their heads. The auctioneer barely acknowledged him, just another "no one wants this" one case like hundreds of dogs left behind before. Ray never intended to be there. He had only passed by after visiting a nearby auto shop, but when his eyes swept across pen 57, he paused. Something he couldn't quite name it made him slow down. It wasn't pity, it was something deeper, something familiar, like staring into a mirror that remembered what pain looked like. The dog slowly lifted his head. It wasn't hope, it was recognition. A silent, aching kind of pain, the same one buried in Ray's chest. Before he could think it through, Ray raised his hand. $30, he said. No one else bid. Silence, a nod from the auctioneer, and just like that, the transaction was over. When Ray opened the cage door, the dog didn't resist. He stood limping slightly on a back leg and followed Ray out like they'd known each other in another life. On the way home, neither spoke. Ray watched him in the rearview mirror. The dog didn't sleep. Didn't bark, didn't tremble, just silence. Ray tried some names, Jack Duke Ranger. Nothing then, without thinking, he murmured Blaze. A tiny flick of the dog's ear, just a small reaction, but it sent a chill down Ray's spine. That wasn't a name he had just made up. That was the name from the nightmares he thought he had forgotten. The name of a canine partner who once pulled him from death's edge on a long-buried mission, years ago, day by day. Blaze lay near the window, watching like a ghost. No wagging tail, no joy, no play. Then one night, Ray touched the dog's old collar, flipped it over. A nearly erased serial code. He brought it to a retired veterinary technician who scanned it. A faint ping, a file appeared. Blaze had served in a special unit. Previous handler, missing no remains. No closure. That night, Ray dreamt of the battlefield again. He woke up drenched in sweat, and Blaze was sitting by his side, watching the dark, like he knew something was coming. Then came the black car across the field. No plates. No driver was seen. Then it vanished a few days later. Ray's home was broken into. Nothing was stolen except the collar. Then came the photo, a young soldier kneeling beside Blaze. The name, not Ray Logan. Logan, the friend Ray once believed had died. Ray didn't hesitate. He and Blaze followed the traces, town after town. Until one early morning by a weathered dock, Blaze bolted straight toward a man sitting alone in a gray hoodie. The man looked up. They didn't speak. Blaze pressed his head into the man's chest, Logan. And when Ray approached and saw them, he knew. That forgotten dog hadn't just found his old handler. He had brought all of them back to themselves. Dusk had fallen by the time they arrived. A weathered wooden cabin nestled at the edge of the forest, its faded gray roof sagging slightly, and a creaky front porch groaning under time's weight. Ray parked the truck and opened the passenger door. The dog didn't jump out. He simply stepped down slowly, unhurried, unafraid, as if he had done this 1,000 times before. The screen door creaked open. Ray leaned over and motioned with his hand, and then without a bark, without a wag, the dog crossed the threshold like a shadow, opening a new chapter for two souls long lost. The first days after Ray brought Blaze home, the cabin was quieter than ever. There was no barking, no scratching on the wooden floors, not even the excited breathing you'd expect from a rescued dog. Blaze didn't bark. He didn't play, and he barely ate. He simply lay there silent, eyes fixed on the window like watching for an invisible enemy. His posture was always alert, head resting on his front paws, ears slightly raised. Sometimes Ray would catch that gaze locked into the forest beyond, as if Blaze were guarding something or waiting for something to return. Each morning, Ray would set the food down and gently call Blaze, "Come eat, buddy." But Blaze would only sniff at it, then curl up in the corner rug near the fireplace. No complaints, no demands, just a shadow with a heartbeat. And then the dreams returned. On a cold, still nights, Ray dreamt of sand and fire, of gunshots echoing in his ears, smoke burning in his throat, and desperate voices calling through the rubble. He dreamt of a dog leaping across enemy lines, eyes glowing through the dust, pulling him from death's grip in a mission buried long ago. The name of that dog, he had forgotten. Or maybe he'd tried to, but Blaze's quiet presence stirred memories like a wound that never truly healed. One morning while scrubbing the cabin floor, Ray's eyes fell on the old collar Blaze had worn since he brought him home. It was frayed, the leather cracked, and the metal tag nearly rubbed smooth. Curious, Ray picked it up. Beneath the dust, something faintly shimmered, a sequence of numbers or what was left of one. Ray frowned. He'd never seen a tag like it. Not a standard ID. It's not a veterinary registration. This looked like something someone had tried to erase. A sinking feeling settled in his chest. That afternoon, Ray drove more than 30 miles to Eliza's ranch, a retired veterinary technician who lived alone with a few rescued horses in a garden full of wild sage. Eliza had once worked with military animals and was one of the few people Ray still trusted from the old days. She was already opening the door before Ray had even stepped out of his truck. Her sharp eyes hadn't changed, nor had that half smile that never quite reached comfort. "Haven't seen you in a while," she said. "This isn't about your cholesterol, is it?" Ray gave a faint smirk and nodded toward the bed of the truck where Blaze lay motionless watching this dog. "I don't think he's just a dog." Eliza tilted her head, then waved him in. "Bring him inside her small, dimly lit examination room." Eliza ran a scanner across the back of Blaze's neck. A faint beep sounded weak and distorted. She frowned. Weak signal." Almost scrambled, she switched to a higher-powered reader. This time the scanner gave a long, steady tone. A sequence of numbers appeared on the screen. Eliza stared at it, silent for several seconds. "Ray, this chip isn't part of the civilian veterinary system." Ray straightened. "What do you mean?" She turned the screen toward him. The code began with a prefix used only in classified K9 training units. Ray's voice dropped. "Which unit?" Eliza shook her head. "Not sure, but I've seen this format once years ago in the file of a special service dog that went missing after an unreported operation." Ray felt his stomach tighten. "And what else?" he asked quietly. Eliza slowly scrolled down the encrypted data. Most of the file was blurred out, but one faint line of text remained. K9 classified. "Handler L. Price." Ray read the name again. Price, suddenly a hazy memory stirred. A young soldier with chestnut hair and a careless grin, the one who used to sit beside him every morning at the outpost. The same guy who once said, "If I die, make sure Blaze makes it home." He'd vanished during a mission near the southern border. Nobody found, no official explanation. Just missing in action. Eliza looked at Ray like she too was trying to reconnect. A cut wire. "I don't know what's going on, Ray, but you need to be careful. If Blaze was part of a black program, and if someone tried to erase his ID, then maybe someone wanted to erase his past entirely." Ray didn't answer. He knelt, placing his hand gently on Blaze's head. The dog didn't move, but his eyes shifted just slightly, as if he understood that his story was slowly being unlocked. Not to be used again, but to be understood. That night back at the cabin, Ray couldn't sleep. He sat beside Blaze, the fire casting shadows on the wooden walls, shapes that looked like ghosts from the battlefield. In his head, a storm of unanswered questions churned. Who trained Blaze? Is his old handler still alive? And why would a dog once considered national property end up in an auction yard? Ray felt it clearer than ever. This wasn't just a discarded dog. This was a witness, a missing piece of a truth someone had tried hard to bury. Ray never thought he'd call that man again. Former Captain Jonas Carrick, once the head of an independent intelligence unit, back when Ray was still active. A man with eyes like searchlights and a voice Ray once described as hard as steel heels on a concrete floor. He hesitated for a few seconds before pressing. Call. The phone rang 3 times, then stopped. A familiar gravelly voice answered. "Ray, damn, I thought you'd retired for good." Ray didn't waste time. "I've got a dog. And you're going to want to hear this." He told him everything about the auction yard. The name Blaze, the faded chip code, the name all prices on the record. And the dreaming, the burning sand, the choked screams, and the last look of a friend never laid to rest. Jonas was quiet for a beat, then his voice dropped low. "Listen, Ray, there were programs, units, that didn't leave anything behind when they ended. No trails, no people, no dogs. I can't say who Blaze was. But if his handler's name was Price, you should know he didn't die in action, as the report claimed. He disappeared, and you're not the first one to ask about him. Ray sat frozen. You still have the collar, Jonas asked. Yes, Ray replied, but I hid it good. Keep it hidden, and don't let anyone know you're digging into this. That day, Ray returned home. Just as the sun dipped behind the trees, Blaze was lying on the porch, ears perked at the sound of the truck. But something felt wrong. The back door was slightly ajar. Ray was sure he had locked it. His heart pounding, he stepped inside. His desk was a mess. Drawers pulled open, papers scattered across the floor. Nothing of real value was taken except for one thing, Blaze's old collar. Ray stood still, then stepped back outside, scanning the damp earth. The footprints were faint, but enough to tell someone had been here. They knew what to look for, and they'd found it. On the wooden table under the still glowing desk lamp, a small piece of paper. No envelope, no signature, just a single line written in thick black marker. Some dogs were never meant to come home. Some dogs were never meant to come home. Ray sat in the kitchen all night. The lights never turned off. Blaze lay by his feet, unmoving. The message wasn't for the ball, it was for him. A warning, or worse, a reminder that he was digging into ground not meant for the living. The next morning, Ray began combing through old documents he had kept from his time in the service. Memos, handwritten letters, declassified operation reports, and in one faded folder he found a photograph. It had been taken in a makeshift camp somewhere along the Middle Eastern border. Ray stood beside two other soldiers. One of them was Logan Price, now looking closely. Ray saw something else in the photo. A German shepherd is sitting right at Logan's feet, its left ear is slightly folded. Gray fur and eyes, he recognized. Blaze. Ray whispered. That evening, Ray called Jonas again. I want to know what really happened to Price. Jonas sighed. There's no confirmed KIA report, just a status update. Disappeared under unclear combat conditions. Truth is, some in the unit suspected he went AWOL after an ambush. Why, Ray asked. There were rumors of an off-the-record mission, a small team embedded behind enemy lines to clear the way for a larger op. But something went wrong. They were betrayed. Logan was one of the few who survived, but after that, he never came back, and neither did Blaze. Jonas paused. Ray, if you've found Blaze, then I'm afraid you've just reopened a file someone tried to bury for good. That week, Ray began noticing things. A black car idling silently across the field at 2 a.m., then vanishing. A figure drifting along the forest edge during one of his walks with Blaze. And once at a gas station, Ray was sure someone was following him, just a few paces behind, until he turned around and they were gone. Ray wasn't new to this, but this time the feeling of being watched wasn't just instinct. It was real. During a check of one of his forest cameras, he saw the image. A man in a dark coat, hood up, standing only 30 steps from his cabin at 3:00 a.m. The man wasn't looking at the camera. He was staring at the kitchen window. Ray printed the image and taped it to the refrigerator. Not to scare himself, but to remember there was no turning back. That night, as Blaze lay silently on the porch, eyes fixed on the dark woods, Ray sat beside him. He looked up at the sky, vast, quiet, starlit. Yet now it felt like it was hanging by a thread. This wasn't just about Blaze. It's not just about a forgotten dog. It was about a soldier, one who was never allowed to come home. The autumn sunlight spread across the windshield like a thin mist. Ray placed his hand on the steering wheel absently, twisting the worn silver ring on his pinky finger, a habit he'd kept since deployment. Whenever he braced for something uncertain, Blaze was in the back seat, just like every journey. Silent eyes open, watching every curve in the road. No leash, no commands, just Ray's presence, and Blaze would follow him anywhere. Ray's old truck rumbled for over 200 miles from the secluded woodland where his cabin hid beneath the trees to the rugged roads leading to the coastal town of Harlan. The small town sat tucked behind hills long forgotten by travel brochures. But for Ray, this might be where everything began, and maybe where it would end. There wasn't much proof. Just an old photo Eliza had sent, retrieved from leaked file data. In the photo, a young man in a hoodie walks beside a German shepherd. His left ear is slightly folded. He has a limp in his stride, and he has a scar across his back. The man's face was obscured by shadow. But Ray knew Logan Price. The memory came flooding back. Logan had been the youngest in their unit, always smiling in the face of danger, and the only one who could tame the fiercest dog like a child. After that ambush, Logan had been marked as missing. Nobody. No funeral. Just a name crossed off a roster. But if Blaze was still alive, then maybe, just maybe, Logan was too. The town of Harlan appeared like a faded reel of film, small wooden-roofed houses and a few quiet cafes scattered along the coastline. Gravel roads led to an old pier where fishermen mended nets, pushed boats, and children played with empty cans. Ray didn't stop in the town center. He drove straight to the harbor, to the exact spot from the photograph. Worn wooden planks weathered by salt and time, Blaze was sitting up right now. Ears perked, nose twitching in the salty air. Ray pulled over, stepped out, and opened the back door. "Come on, Blaze," he whispered, no need to repeat it. The dog leaped down, walking beside Ray with cautious but deliberate steps, as if he knew exactly what they were about to find. Halfway down the dock, Ray froze. At the far end sat a man, faded gray hoodie, slouched posture, face hidden beneath a cap and the glare of the sun. Beside him, a fishing gear bag. No one else. Only the sea breeze, the slap of waves, and the scent of damp wood. Blaze suddenly stopped. His ears drooped, then no bark, no command. He ran. Both Ray and the man looked up at the same time. The man stood quickly, staggering slightly, like he'd just been pulled back into a long-buried memory. When Blaze reached him, there was no frantic wagging, no joyful whimper, like in those viral reunion videos. Just a gentle nudge. Blaze rested his head against the man's stomach, off still and hurried, as if the world had finally clicked back into place. The man's trembling hand lowered onto Blaze's head. He bowed his head. His shoulders shook. Ray walked slowly toward them. At that moment, he knew. "No confirmation is needed," Logan, Ray said. The man looked up, eyes red but still carrying that familiar look from the old days, resilient, wounded, and carrying a belief too long suppressed. "I thought you were dead," Ray said, his voice raw. Logan gave a faint shake of the head. "I tried," he murmured. "But Blaze wouldn't let me give up." They sat together at the edge of the pier, the wind rising around them, carrying salt and the silence of years lost. Logan told the story of that fateful night, of the unrecorded ambush, of how their unit had been betrayed from the inside and how Blaze, wounded, still dragged him out of the crossfire, hiding for days in the desert until they found shelter. "We were rescued, but not really. I overheard them say I knew too much, that Blaze was to be retrieved like defective property. I couldn't let that happen. So I ran, I took him, changed names, moved constantly." Ray clenched his fists, and the collar with the erased chip, "That was me." Logan exhaled. "I tried to blur it out, but maybe not enough." They both looked at Blaze, now lying quietly at Logan's feet, eyes closed as he could finally breathe easy. Ray turned to Logan. "You know they're still looking for you, right?" "I know," Logan said, eyes on the horizon, "but I'm tired. Every day on the run felt like half a life, and Blaze, he's getting old. I want to live fully, at least this time." Ray nodded. "Then come back with me. The old cabin's still there. Warm blankets, hot coffee, and a forest big enough you won't have to fear the dark anymore." Logan smiled, eyes glistening. "You're still the same, Ray? Always thinking someone needs you to save them?" Ray looked down at Blaze. "It wasn't me who saved him," he said softly. "It was the other way around. On the ride back, Blaze sat between them. On one side, Logan, the handler who had vanished like a ghost. On the other hand, there is Ray, the friend who once mourned a goodbye he never got to say. Between them, there were no words. Only the hum of the truck's engine, the steady breath of a dog once lost, and a silence so gentle that it felt like home had finally been found. The old truck rolled along the worn dirt road, the sun casting a pale golden light behind the trees. When the wooden cabin emerged in the clearing of the quiet forest, Ray let out a sigh like a soldier returning from a long and grueling mission. Logan sat silently in the passenger seat. He glanced out the window. Gray porch roof, a weathered chair, and wooden steps eroded by time. A place that seemed ordinary, but held enough space for a man who had once lost himself. In the backseat, Blaze lay still. His head rested on Ray's leg, eyes half closed. The scars on his body had long healed, but the fractures in his soul, like in theirs, were only just beginning to mend. A week later, a small hand-carved sign hung at the gate. Echo Haven, a recovery center for veterans and their four-legged companions. The letters were simple, unpolished, but enough to make passersby pause. Ray poured his savings and retirement into fixing up the house. Logan took charge of the backyard, building kennels for the rescued dogs that slowly started arriving. There were no advertisements, no posters. Everything began with quiet phone calls, trembling voices of old soldiers asking, "Is it true? There's still a place for people like us." Before long, it wasn't just the three of them. Each week brought a new face, A story, a past that had never been spoken aloud. Then one day Eliza returned, this time not with a scanner, but with an old friend, Clara, a freelance journalist who once worked for the local paper. She had heard about Blaze from Eliza and about Logan from Ray, but it wasn't until she saw them with her own eyes, heard with her ears, and felt with her own heart that she decided to write. Clara didn't write a sensational expose. She didn't focus on military secrets or lost units. She simply wrote about a soldier who came home, about a dot that refused to abandon his handler, and about a small cabin where three broken souls were learning to heal together. The article bore a simple title, Blaze, the last soldier still standing watch. No one expected the story to spread so fast. Within a week, messages flooded in. Some sent handwritten letters, stories about fathers who had served and now lived in solitude. Some asked to volunteer. A veteran from a state across the country drove 3 days just to sit beside Blaze and whisper, "I get you." A veterinary foundation offered free medical care for retired service dogs. A veterans council raised funds to build more kennels and improve the grounds. But to Logan and Ray, the most valuable moments remained the quiet afternoons when laughter echoed in the backyard for the first time in years. Blaze was getting old now. Silver fur framed his muzzle. His eyes were growing cloudy, but his routine never changed. Every evening, just as the sun dipped low, he would rise from the rug near the fireplace, walk to the porch, and sit by the gate. No one called, no one ordered. It was instinct, or perhaps a promise still waiting to be fulfilled. When someone asked, "What's Blaze waiting for?" Ray would smile, place a hand on his head, and whisper, "Maybe." The last soldier still finding his way home. One October afternoon, Clara returned with her notebook and camera. She took a photo of three figures, Ray, Logan, and Blaze, sitting together on the steps. Their smiles weren't perfect. Their faces still bore the marks of their past. But their eyes held the peace of men who had finally found where they belonged. Below the image in Clara's next article, she wrote, "He wasn't just saved. He saved all of us." Winter came slowly. Snow blanketed the cabin roof. Inside, Blaze lay near the fireplace, his head between his paws, chest rising and falling with each slow breath. Logan read a book, Ray brewed tea. Two men who had survived war loss and the silent ghosts in their minds were learning how to live again truly. Not with noise, not with grand declarations, just by waking each morning and knowing they were no longer alone. Ray knew that one day Blaze wouldn't walk out to the gate anymore. But he also knew that in every person who passed through Echo Haven, Blaze had left a part of himself, a piece of loyalty, a quiet understanding, a reminder that sometimes the one who saves your soul doesn't come with wings, but with four paws and eyes that never judge. And when that final soldier returns, no matter how many years or how much pain it will be, Blaze who waits by the gate, watching, guarding, welcoming as if no time or distance ever stood between them. The story of Blaze, Logan, and Ray isn't just a reunion between man and dog. It's a testament to a deeper truth. Sometimes healing doesn't come from medicine or time, but from empathy, from a gaze that listens in silence, from a heart that refuses to give up on you when the world already has. Blaze wasn't just a dog rescued. He was a symbol of loyalty, of undying memory, and of the hope that no matter how far we stray, there will always be a home waiting for us to return. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this journey. If this story touched your heart, please like to share it, to spread the message of love, and subscribe to our channel for more emotional stories like this, with heartfelt gratitude. Thank you.